Blessings, everyone. This is Chris Kendall from the rawadvantage.com, registered holistic nutritionist, raw food lifestyle coach, and raw chef. Today, I'm excited to share a nice little interview I did with Noah from True Health on Facebook just a couple days ago. It goes deep into protein and some other nuances of the raw food diet and just how to stay healthy and thriving on a raw vegan lifestyle. So I hope you guys really enjoy it and watch out for a live video coming soon.
Baby, I like it raw. Raw Advantage likes it raw. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Hey.
All right. Well, hello to you, my friends. We we were supposed to be live right now in the Facebook group, but some technical difficulties have made it a little bit challenging to go live. We're quite impossible. Hey, Kitty. Oh, because the kitty wanted to join.
You wanted to join? Yeah. Good, Dottie.
Yeah, so we are recording this, and probably at a different time we'll go live. But I want to introduce a dear friend, a beautiful human, and such an inspiration on my path to the conversation today, Chris Kendall from the Raw Advantage, and he'll share more about that and all the goodies that he offers and does in the world. And Chris was such a huge inspiration for me over a decade ago now. It was about like 2009, I think, I've always been so passionate about nutrition or just health, right? And how to feed my body in a way that supports my well-being. And I've been on such a journey. I became a vegetarian when I was 12, not because health, but just because of it didn't make sense to me to eat animals. And so at the age of 12, without any influence, I said, no, I'm going to stop eating meat. And then a few years later, just with my own exploration and becoming a holistic health coach, I went into being vegan and learned more about dairy and other things that I was still eating, thinking it was healthy. And I was starting to discover the layers of what true health is all about, and going into the vegan. And then I discovered raw food, and I was in heaven. I was like, wow, that made so much sense to me, and I was loving it. Yet I still didn't feel, I wasn't thriving necessarily. And I think it was in 2000, at the end of 2008 to 2009 is when I found the book, The 80-10-10 Diet.
Awesome. Such a good book.
Yeah, which we could definitely talk about. And to me, it was like, I felt I found God. Like, oh my God, you want to tell me that I can eat all the fruits in the world? And
Unlimited!
And everything made so much sense to me. And of course, there's some nuances, and it's not black and white. And that's something, Chris and I can dive into a little bit. But in that particular moment, it was literally for me, such a aha moment. And like, I was reading the Bible and I was taking notes, and then that opened up the entire path of what we call fruitarianism. And I found Chris on, I think it was YouTube. I don't even remember. Probably it was YouTube. And I was like, who is this dude? He's like talking about bananas and stuff. And he's just like, he has such a sense of humor and the way to convey the message of health that is so fun and accessible. And so I started following him, and then I was also very inspired by what he has created for himself from the business perspective, and being a health coach, leading people and educating people about health and how to transform their lives through fruits, through eating in accordance with nature. So yeah, I've known Chris, maybe not personally one-on-one, but I've known him for over a decade, and I have watched him grow and evolve on his own path. But the consistency has been the same, just offering the gift of health to people, and always doing it from a place of so much heart and so genuine. And that's one of the reasons why I was inspired to bring him into the conversation and share his wisdom and his knowledge and his heart with all of you. And also, it's always very refreshing for me to have a conversation with a male friend that can give a male perspective, because I'm a woman, obviously, and I can speak as a man or from a men's experience. And I do have male clients and people that come to me, and men usually say the same thing. well, I want to try this lifestyle and I'm afraid to lose too much weight. And what about the protein? And I want to keep my muscle. I want to build my muscle. And so, there's so many things that I can say and share and explain, and nothing is more powerful than to feel, like, oh, this person gets me because, he's a guy and he can actually get what I'm saying. And so that's one of the things that we're going to talk about here today, and really inspire men, not just women, to embark on this journey and actually contemplate this lifestyle, and maybe Chris and I can debunk a few myths around the protein and around fruits, and how to actually stay fit, and not only fit, but ripped, on using fruits and eating fruits and living a particular lifestyle that can definitely help support any fitness goals that you might have in your life, or if you want to gain muscle as a dude, because I'm not a dude, obviously. So without further ado, definitely so honored to bring Chris into the conversation, and for Chris first to share about himself, about his life, and his health journey, because I know you've got a beautiful story of what led you actually into this lifestyle, and what are the breakthroughs and the experiences that you had after you've crossed you hopped over to the other side of the fence.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate being on here myself, and being a small part of your story as well. To be an inspiration is, one of my highest goals. And I've gotten so much from this lifestyle, and that's why I just want to pour it out. So, having that come back always feels the best. And, I just feel really blessed with all I have, little kitty here. If I look down sometimes, it's because she's just cuddling me up, but well, that's amazing. And I love seeing what you're doing as well. And it is amazing to look back over the decade and more, and all the times that have passed and the changes we've seen, and how blessed we are right now with all the things we have, But getting into my own story, it started out when I was fairly young. I've always been interested in growth and self-development, and back to kind of looking more into stuff like Celestian prophecies and all that stuff before I even got into health with food. And it was kind of funny because when I was younger, I was really a pretty decently healthy, kind of clean-cut kid. But I moved out early at the age of 17 with the dreams of becoming a professional skateboarder. And with that, I kind of got into a party lifestyle fairly quickly and started partying a lot more. And, it didn't take long. It was only about a year and a half of drinking and smoking and partying and eating bacon double cheeseburger pizzas, because, if I was away from home and not eating the whole food kind of cooked meals that my mom made, which was kind of omnivorous, but still very healthy compared to a junk food standard American diet, I went downhill fast. And by the time I was 18, I was depressed. 19, I was very depressed, like joints aching and chronic candida, brain fog. I would go on airplanes and wish they'd crashed. I really wanted an end to my life, to be honest. And part of that was just because I wasn't really achieving my aim as a skateboarder, partially because I wasn't healing very well, and I was just partying and then skateboarding and partying and skateboarding, just never really healing physically, mentally, emotionally. And I knew I needed to find something. And the first thing I found was yoga. I just was in Walmart one day randomly and saw like one of those bulk bins of VHS cassettes. And there was a Rodney Yee intermediate yoga class. And I started taking that on. I started doing that every single day. And it had some yoga information that led me to kind of the philosophy, and kind of getting into karma and getting into the realization that, our actions have consequences, and talking about the karma of food and how that impacts us on every single level. And it really sparked something in me to learn a little bit more from that angle, because even though I'd looked at other kind of books in the past, like Carl Rue's Four Agreements and, Celestian prophecies and stuff, and I really resonated with that, I hadn't connected that with food at all, and that was a huge piece of the puzzle. All of a sudden I had this new interest in nutrition. I'm like, what? Food has a big impact on how we feel, and it has an impact on like our connection to spirit and all this other stuff, right? So I started looking, and the first book I found was called Fit for Life. It was at a used bookstore. there's tons of books. I went to the health section. There's a big wall. And for some reason, that book was just like, this is the one, you know? And I read that. That's been, now it's been about 21 years ago. And 20 years ago, it would have been 99. Yeah, so 2021. And I just, you know, I'm kind of an A-type. I'm mellowing with that a little bit, you know, but, but when I find something, I generally kind of run with it, you know, and that book really introduced some very basic concepts. Like it talked about vegetarian, vegan, and raw food, you know, like it talked about all those things, but in a very soft way of like, this is a direction, right? Not like, this is how it has to be. And it talked about food combining, you know, and talked about sequential eating, talked about eating fruit first on an empty stomach because of the digestive kind of properties of fruit and how it wants to run through your system faster. And all of this stuff just like clicked, just made so much sense. And, you know, in the last 20 years, I've probably had about 5 cooked breakfasts since then because it said eat fruit for breakfast. And I was like, all right. And I started food combining to the point where even 10 years later, after like food combining for that full 10 years, if I saw somebody else food combining poorly, I'd get a stomach ache because I thought it was like so important. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe they're eating it that way. You know? So like, I really took it on, you know, and I moved towards vegetarian, vegan, and then raw vegan. But for me, it was about a 4.5 year journey from total junk food, being a self-proclaimed scumbag that would just eat and drink anything and everything on the table and laugh at my sister for being a vegetarian, to about 1.5 years in being vegetarian and then being veg for a few years and then going high raw vegan, or actually rather vegan, then high raw vegan. And the last stages were a little bit quicker. I moved to Vancouver, Canada, and was working a few different jobs. One of them was at a health food store. I wanted to be a vegan chef at that time. I was already kind of like, my eyes were on that, and all the information was heading me towards more and more whole foods, more and more plant foods. And I really wanted to be a vegan chef, but I couldn't find any vegan chefing schools. The only one that had a vegan component was Cordon Bleu in like France or Paris, somewhere out there. And for like a 19-year-old kid that didn't have much money, it just didn't seem like a real option. Plus, you still had to taste and use meat in some of the dishes. It just had a vegan component. So it didn't seem viable. And instead, I ended up going for my secondary passion was nutrition, right? So I went into a school called CSNN in Canada. It's called the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, and went for a 1-year registered holistic nutritionist degree, which is a 1-year full-time course. So I was working at the grocery store and going to my schooling. And at the beginning of the schooling was pretty much right when I went like vegan and high raw vegan. I was eating fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch, and then simple cooked dinners for dinner, right? And midway through the schooling, there was a vegan health festival in Chinatown, Vancouver, and they had 3 raw vegan speakers. And I watched one like early in the morning of the first day. It was a 2-day event, and it was pretty good. But then the second one I went to just blew me wide open and changed my life forever. It was the first time I had ever seen or heard of Dr. Doug Graham, and it was one of those moments, like when you meet like a turning point in your life, or when you come across information that just you really, really jive with. It's like every cell in your being is like vibrating a little faster. You feel a little bit warm. You just feel like yes, like everything in your body is saying, yes, this is the truth, right? And that was what happened when I met Doug. He was just on fire. And I don't mean like, cooking, because he didn't cook anything, but he was glowing. He had a real glow about him. And what he was saying just hit me on every level. And so I went to that talk. I went to another talk of his. At the end of that day, I went after and just like sat with him and talked. And he was very gracious and, gave me his ear, gave me his heart, and just shared everything he could, answered all the questions I had. We talked for like an hour. That night I went raw. I was like, after that, I'm like, I'm not eating any cooked food. I'm going to do at least a month raw. I'm going to do this, right? Next day I woke up and I remember walking to the grocery store to get food, and my heart center blew open as one of the kind of moments that people sometimes say is like a Satori moment or an awakening moment. And I don't think it's necessarily just because of raw food. I was only a couple hours in, but I met my purpose. Like before that, I was in nutrition school. I'd been studying nutrition nonstop, but I had zero interest to spread it. Like really it was for myself. It's completely selfish. I'm not saying that I would withhold it, but it wasn't something I was looking to utilize in any way, shape, or form as a career. But that all changed as soon as I got into raw food, and like I immediately felt benefits, and my heart opened as like, this is why I'm here. I want to share this message. I want to be able to tell people and open up people and inspire people to how amazing and connected they can feel, so that their eyes can open and they can see a lot of other truths in their lives and in this world around us. And I remember just walking down the street crying, just feeling so awakened and so connected to everyone around me, you know. And I got a whole bunch of bananas, and then I went to every lecture he did and talked to him again for an hour afterwards. And, you know, at that point, that was just, again, one of those huge shifts where my whole life changed, and skateboarding was then, you know, just a vehicle for connecting with other people and having fun and expressing myself. But my real journey was leading me more towards holistic health and spreading that message with raw food as a central theme. So after that, I stayed in touch with Doug. There wasn't any, you know, Facebook or YouTube. This is 16 years ago. There was none of that kind of stuff. And he had a support board, which I went to all the time and connected with him. 80-10-10 hadn't come out yet. It came out, I think, 3 or 4 years later. He was already teaching it, but he didn't have the book out. And yeah, the first 8 months were amazing. I felt the best I'd ever felt in my life. So connected and just so like rocket fuel, just so good. And I was a raw food evangelist. Like, this is me for the rest of my life. I'd rather die. You know, like, everyone should be doing this. It's going to solve every problem in the world. And then I ran into some really trying social, emotional situations, road tripping and traveling. And I didn't just fall off the wagon. I dove off of it into fast food, eating stuff that I hadn't eaten and swore I'd never eat again. And that wrecked me emotionally. And, you know, I mean, we could go so deep into all this, but, you know, it's been 16 years that since I met Doug and dove into a raw food diet. The first 5 years was, you know, some discovery and really facing social, emotional, spiritual connection and troubles and all those kind of sideways paths we can go on. And I learned and grew through a lot of that, which led me to getting to a point where I was like, you know what, this is what my calling is. I can't procrastinate any longer. I'm a bit of a procrastinator, like some of us. And I started the Raw Advantage to share all my experience and knowledge and the things that really light me up. And now it's been 11 years full time, you know, just sharing through consultations. I have I think 500-600 videos. I don't even count anymore. Like, you know, over 11 years of videos on YouTube, and do retreats and festivals. Got 9 written books. I now teach alongside and even co-write books with Dr. Doug Graham, and count him as a really close personal friend and mentor. And travel around the world doing festivals and all this kind of stuff. So I'm living my dream, you know, just sharing the things that really have helped me in the past, and I just love to pass that along.
Wow, Chris, that's amazing.
And I'm still doing it.
Yes,
still
yes, you are.
Skateboarding, loving the heck out of it. And I mean, some other crazy stuff that I won't go too deep into, but, you know, I've broken many bones before this, because I've been skateboarding since I was 6 years old, you know, and like going hard, you know, and like, this wrist, for example, has been broken 4 times, and 2 of the times were before I was raw, and 2 of the times were after I was raw. I fractured my back while I've been raw. I have no ACL in my knee from before I was raw, and I was just recently in a major motorcycle accident with my girlfriend, where we both almost died. Like, we both definitely are very blessed to be here, and there's purpose, right? But I'm only bringing these up because I actually have the contrast with my wrist, where I typically find that I heal in about 1/2 to 2/3 of the time of the average individual. And my PTs say the same thing. They're like, if everyone was like you, our job would be so easy. And not only because I heal well and fast, but because my attitude is always just on like the positive sides, and I feel blessed by challenge and by every single thing that that happens. Like, I'm not sad about the car accident, you know, like it was what it was, and it led me to where I am, and it's going to allow me to help more people and to not take anything for granted. And I feel even more blessed to be skateboarding now than I did, as, you know, every single opportunity has a silver lining, right? So,
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know the extent of the story, and it's really cool that you met Doug way before 80-10-10 was even out, and that's the book that I was like, oh my God, I just found God, right? It's really cool. And
well, I met God. It was Doug.
I resonate with what you said about the visceral experience that you had in your body when you heard him speak, because that was my experience when I read the book.
Yeah. Oh,
That was the
100%. I mean,
exact experience.
that's the thing with the raw food lifestyle, and that's why it hits a lot of people so hard, is because everything comes into alignment. You know, whether we're talking about the ecology, or we're talking about the animal rights, or we're talking about, you know, the environment, we're talking about the science, we're talking about the common sense, like every single aspect, when you actually dig into it and look into it, and the more you look, everything just seamlessly fits together and just makes so much sense on every level. And it's like, there are certain truths that we come across that our entire being just sings and just resonates with. And it's not like, oh, that's interesting, like, yeah, that makes sense. It's more like, yes, like, I know this already. It's just, I'm remembering it again, you know. And it's like, it's woven into our very DNA, you know. So most people find that, and most people feel that, and, you know, especially when they get good information and start applying it, you know, and take a bigger picture view of it, right? But it's part of the reason why a lot of people, when they get into this lifestyle, they become evangelists, you know. They want to run around and shake people. It's like, you know,
Exactly.
it's like the healthy conspiracy theorist, right? It's like,
Yeah, because it makes, to me, I resonate with it. It makes so much sense. Like, I see it as, it is the answer to so many of the issues that we
oh
see
man,
on the planet. And even
yeah,
just from the individual level of, I just really appreciate that you shared your journey with depression, because
mm-hmm.
it's really not, okay, we have the physical health, but our
Yeah,
emotions and our thoughts are connected to it. And I had my experience with depression in my life. I know exactly what you're
mm-hmm.
talking about regarding, like, hey, if a truck hits me right now, it's like, great. Like, I've been on the
Yeah,
road with those thoughts, like, oh, that would be
yeah,
great to just check out.
yeah,
And the difference when you actually have the right fuel in your body, and the electricity and the life force from living
mm-hmm.
foods and fruits, of course, that are
Yeah,
the highest on the scale of
yeah,
electricity, life force, and God consciousness.
yeah,
So as we know, it goes way, way, way deeper than just the physical health, but it is spirituality, it is consciousness, and to have that awakened mind and awakened consciousness that comes through the food that you
yeah,
ingest. It's one piece of the puzzle for sure, but it's a very important
absolutely.
piece.
It's an amazing one. And I mean, the way I often look at it is, you know, fruit is, you know, is baked in the sun, and it's like months and months and months of prana. It's months and months of energy from all of the major elements. You know, it's like, you know, a single piece of fruit can take anywhere from 3 to 12 months to develop, you know. And it's got the water, it's got the earth, it's got the wood, it's got the fire, it's got the air, all imbued into it. You know, I often also say it's Mother Nature's love. It's love made physical from all of the elements to nourish us, body, mind, and spirit, you know. And the thing that I find so powerful about the raw food diet is when we're eating that food, it's like shining a bright flashlight within us, and it's lighting up every single dark corner inside of ourselves, all the cobwebs, all the things that aren't servicing us or serving us anymore, are asking to be let go of, or asking to be seen, or are being lit up. And sometimes that's really challenging. You know, this isn't a lifestyle that is just like candies and rainbows, although it can be, and it does seem like that a lot of the time. But we end up going through the dark night of the soul often through utilizing this lifestyle and being asked to look within, you know. And
Mhm.
so I think it's really important to recognize that, and that it is more than just the food. It is the emotional components and the social components. All of those things come into play, you know. And we can be eating the healthiest diet in the world, and, you know, if we're not getting our sleep, or if we're just really pessimistic, or if we're blaming other people and coming from a victim mentality, all of those things are going to have an impact on our health, right? So I find raw food is just a powerful vortex of change that brings light to those areas where there is darkness, and asks us to see, accept, and love them. And it's a growth process, and that's why it often takes people years to fully apply the diet and to come into complete balance and ease with lifestyle, not just diet, right? And I just think that's really important, something I always want to bring up. And if you've listened to me before, you might be hearing things again and again, and that's a good thing sometimes.
It is, because it is. It's just the same, right? It's the same thing again. Even Doug, he
Yeah,
says the same thing over and over again. My teacher
yeah,
that you might know, Dr. Morse.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Dr. Morse is great.
I'm certified as a detoxification specialist by him, and to me, he's
Yeah.
like, you watch his videos, it's the same thing
Yeah.
that he says again and again and again, because it really is, it's just very simple.
Yeah.
But it's the
And there's always
application.
nuance, and there's always nuance, and there's always like individual things to think about. And,
Right.
a lot of the stuff comes down to like, preference and where they're at and the speed, the emotional component, the speed they want to go at, stuff like that. But it's always an arrow shooting in the same direction, with like love and compassion and understanding being at the central point, so.
Yeah, yeah. And I really love that you touched on that, because that's what I was thinking, the lifestyle, because it is a
Hmm.
lifestyle. It's not just the food that you eat, because what I discovered, and I would love for you to share working with clients and even for yourself, because you are in Canada right now and living in
Yeah.
cold climates, and people like, I'm in Hawaii right
Yeah.
now, and we know that the tropics is our
Hmm.
natural environment, the natural
Yeah.
environment for humans,
Beautiful.
right? And so, but for people that living in colder climates, and even the quality of fruits is really
Hmm.
compromised, right?
Hmm.
It's, what do you say to those people, and how do you guide them? And I also would love for you to share about, the transition recipes that you have, because that's something I appreciate about you. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
there is the hardcore, and
Yeah.
recognizing that everybody is at a different point in their life, and also have
Yeah.
different circumstances that they are living
Absolutely.
in.
Life's a dance, right? Life's a dance, and we're not always dancing to that corner. It's sometimes to this one and around, and we meander about, and it's good to have tools at our disposal for every single situation and place that we're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically with raw food in the winter, it's funny, you might notice I have a little bit of a smirk, because there's an easy answer and then there's a more practical answer. And, sometimes when you come from one side and got all the way to the other, it seems so clear and easy from over here, right? But it isn't, like I said, it isn't all rainbows and candies all the time, right? Like, we're going to go through some challenging moments and, have opportunities to learn and grow with them. And I mean, the most practical, simple things are, it's true, when people take on a raw food diet, they typically, regardless of the weather outside, they typically feel a little bit cooler, because a raw foodist typically runs a little bit cooler, because, our digestion creates thermal heat. If we're eating hard to digest foods all the time, and we're eating high calorie foods all the time, it creates thermal heat in our digestive system, which warms the body. The other aspect of that is, a lot of times we're eating foods that bring about substances and conditions into our body that produce a like a immune response, right? Which increases the blood pressure and increases body temperature as well to fight with it, right? Um, and most people, when they get onto a raw food or start eating a raw food diet, it's lower in calories. So one, they're getting less calories. Two, it's higher in hydration. And the more hydrated you are, the more liquid in your body you have to heat up, which is also naturally cooling. That's why in like Chinese medicine and stuff like that, the watery foods are typically cooling foods, because they produce more hydration in your body and more water to heat up. But then also you're not creating that immune response, and it's less digestive demand. So you're lowering all those points, lead you to feeling a little bit cooler, because you may be sitting a 0.5 degrees cooler on average than the average person, or more, 0.5 to 0.7 degrees cooler. So that's really normal. Plus, your circulation and your whole body, everything is changing. Things are improving. Your body's getting rid of stored wastes, and hopefully you're starting to exercise and stuff like that. So there's a whole body transformation that's happening. So the most practical, simple things to do are, one, make sure you're getting enough calories. If you get more calories, you have more energy for your body to produce heat, right? And so I often find in the winter months that it takes an extra 200 to 300 calories to stay at a baseline in weight and stay nice and warm. To get exercise, I mean, that's the absolute best way to produce some heat and to strengthen and tone your muscles and to help get the whole process moving through, right? Three would be dress warmer. It's like, just wear the long johns, wear extra pair of socks, wear a sweater. I mean, I love Doug has said before, like, yeah, we're tropical beings, but no matter where we live, we're in tropical bubbles all the time. I don't live in the winter. Like, I don't live outside in the winter. It's not that much different. I'm in a house that's heated. Then I run to my car that's heated. And then I go somewhere else that's heated. We're creating it. So it's like, people think that we necessarily need to eat differently, and it's not really the case. We're always in the tropics. It's either indoors or outdoors. We're always in that comfortable kind of tropical temperature, no matter what we do with our food and our housing and clothing, all that stuff. So, so those are some practical ones. I mean, of course, you can do stuff like drink hot water, or, make some hot Datorades. I sometimes blend hot water with dates and some carob powder, make like a hot chocolate. A lot of times people tend to eat a little more fat during the winter, and I think there's various reasons for that. One, the food quality, like you mentioned, sometimes goes down, as well as the variety goes down a little bit. So having those as an option can be really nice. Two, it's a little more caloric dense, so it's easier to get a little more calories in. And three, it's a little more digestively demanding, and most people feel less stimulated during the winter. In the summer, we have things we can go out and play and run around, and people typically feel a little happier and connected when they're out and playing in the sun. And when you're stooped up inside all the time and it's cold, we're a little less stimulated, and we're looking for entertainment and enjoyment in other things. And sometimes that lends us to wanting to numb a little bit or eat a little bit heavier foods to pacify ourselves. And I don't think that's bad or wrong in any way, sense, or form. It's just what is, So a lot of times people do that, eat a little bit more fat in the winter, myself included. So those are the practical things. Now, the bigger one, and why I had the smirk at the beginning, is because I really think that it's all what you focus on, and most of the time when people are new to the diet, what are they focusing on? Diet, nonstop, diet. Yeah, I'm doing it right, I'm doing it wrong, I'm doing it perfect, I could be doing it more perfect, this person does this. And the more we focus on those things, the more we focus on the little nuance, the more we focus on right and wrong, or what we want and don't want, the bigger deal it is. It's an anthill that's made into a mountain, and it causes a lot of stress, right? And most of the time we do need to obsess and to really, really like learn a ton and like single-minded focus on something in order to get to a point where we can let it go. But in that stage when we're like really looking at it, again, it can cause more stress than it needs to. And so for me now, I mean, it's 16 years raw, right? Like, it doesn't matter where I am, if I'm in the Arctic, which I've been up in the Arctic, or if I'm in the tropics, or if I'm in the middle of winter here, it isn't any harder or really that much different for me. It's just, this is what I do. This is what I eat. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm just getting food, and sometimes it's ideal and it's the best I've ever had, and I like sing on an extra high pitch, and other times it's not quite, but that's life, and there's a lot of other things that I can focus on that will have a more profound impact on my overall health package, rather than stressing about any little nuance of, oh, I didn't get this organic this time, or the bananas, okay, that's all I got, or like it's no longer a big deal to me, and because of that, it doesn't really affect me much anymore. And of course, any stressor that we put on ourselves is going to be impactful on our health. And conversely, instead, anything that we can focus on that actually lifts us up instead of pushes us down works again in our favor, in and above that, right? So I'd rather look at like, okay, well, it's the winter. I'm really darn excited to get a little bit more sleep. I'm a little bit more excited to change up my exercise routine and, cross train instead of just skateboarding. I'm going to the gym and I'm doing calisthenics and other things. I'd rather be focusing on making new recipes, or getting some meditation or some yoga time in, or connection with people. And, there's just always so many opportunities during the winter that can lift us up. And the cold doesn't really have to be an aspect of it as far as I'm concerned.
That's great. That's a brilliant answer. Yeah. And I'm happy you brought it up, because I was on that journey, of like very, very strict. When after I found the 80-10-10 book,
Yeah.
I was for a couple of years, such hygienic diet, like no nothing, just fruits, so much fruits, very, very low fat. And I was obsessing about it because that's my personality type. I'll just go in, just like you said about yourself, I'll go in and never look back. And then it gets obsessive, and I recognize like, well, the stress that I'm putting on myself is more harmful than anything else, And so I really appreciate that you brought it up, and that for you, of course, after 16 years, I agree with you. For me as well, after about 10, 11 years, it's very intuitive at this point. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you put me on the moon, and it's like, and I'm really okay with fasting too. So obviously it's a progression and it's an evolution. And what I want to touch on, because this is important for me to get on this recording, and of course we can have another conversation, but the whole conversation.
Edie.
Hey.
Good girl. Oh, she's so good.
Sweetie. You mentioned the gym, right? And you're a very strong guy, and fitness is something that is important to you because you recognize it as part of health. Maybe the kitty can give us some insights on that.
Oh, she's the master of fitness. She is like, you just run and jump and play, and she just has so much fun. Cats can teach us so much.
Oh yes, they do. They teach us so much.
They really do.
Oh, hi.
One of the things that cats teach me is, you don't have to sit down and do an hour-long yoga set. Instead, you can just stretch every time you get up and every time you go to sleep, and
totally,
just micro stretching, just like the animals do.
That's what I've been doing lately, actually. So Chris, what I would love for you to speak on, because I know we need to wrap things up here shortly. This whole concept of protein, and you need protein to work out. You need protein to keep your muscles strong. Please, I would love to hear your perspective on that, especially from somebody like you that has been living this life for 11 years and is very physically active and like to stay in shape. Then I would love for you to share.
Absolutely. Well, it's been veganism for 17 now, raw food for 16, and I got a little bit of muscles. I got some muscles here, and
Chris is strong. He's strong. He has a strong body for sure.
Yeah, I'm doing okay, and I've gone up and down with it, and I've gotten really thin, and that's a commonality, and I think it stands to reason to start there. That depending upon where you're coming from, some people come into the lifestyle overweight, and some people come into the lifestyle thin, and regardless of where you start, most people when they jump into a raw food diet have a hard time consuming enough calories to maintain weight, and that's the number one reason people fall off, is either under consuming calories or really not being aware of their emotional aspects of diet and their connection to food and their relationship with food in general. But calories is number one because it's like the lowest calorie per volume foods on the planet, right? And they're really water rich and really nutrient rich and volume rich. So it makes you feel really satisfied. And most people aren't used to that level of satisfaction to the point where, again, this is such an abundance lifestyle. It's like, eat your face off. Like, try to eat your face off. Like eat until you push it away every single meal, and you'll still be an amazing body weight, especially when we're talking about fruits and veggies, and but a lot of people have a hard time with that, whether it's digestively or whether that's emotionally or whether that's just psychologically, like feeling like they're overeating because it's such large quantities. So it's really common for people to get to a low body weight, and people don't realize it, but muscle tissue is rippled with fat, and most people have more fat in their muscle tissues than they know. So when you get down to a leaner body weight and your body starts to burn that adipose, it starts to burn the fat tissues in your muscles, all of a sudden you're thinner, you're less muscled than you thought you were, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like I got down to 155 when I first went raw. I got down to 145 during a fast. But I got down to 155, and I'm 180 right now, and I've gotten up to 197 on raw foods as well, right? So, I've seen a wide variance, and really all it has taken is dedication and training. We don't make muscle in the kitchen. If we did, then the bodybuilders just be in the kitchen all the time, and I won't say it doesn't matter what you eat, because obviously the bigger picture, it matters what you eat in terms of your overall health and wellness and recovery. But the simplicity of it is, if you're getting excess calories and you're creating demand, for those calories by doing intense workouts that cause muscle damage, you're tearing the muscles to some extent, microscopic tears, then you grow muscle, right? Of course, you need enough protein and all those things. And of course, you need to get enough sleep. But the biggest components really are like the sleep, the actual exercise itself, and then getting the calories to fuel the exercise and the growth, right? Now, when we're actually talking about protein, there have been exhaustive studies, and there's been, I mean, it's been known for a long time. And during the World War times, or it might even been before then, they did some inhumane exhaustive studies on prisoners and stuff like that, prisoners of war. And what they found was that as long as you're consuming 2% of your total calories in terms of amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, some people often just say protein and they mix amino acids and protein back and forth. But the reality is all proteins are made up of amino acids. And I mean, all the animals on the earth, you know, their muscles are protein, but they're built up from eating the grass and from eating the other stuff that has the amino acids to build up. It's just making sure you have the essential amino acids on a somewhat regular supply so that your body can utilize them, right? But yeah, if you're getting at least 2% of your total calories from protein or amino acids and meeting the requirements of the necessary amino acids, then there's no muscle wasting, you know. And it's common in nutritional literature to take what is the base, like below 2%, you started to see issues and things started to manifest. So they take that bottom value and then they double it. So then we're looking at 4% is the generally agreed upon lower limit for protein, right? In the human diet. And that's to cover all ages and races and ethnicities, everything, right? So that's often why they double things. But the fun thing is, if you're looking at whole plant foods, there's really none. The only one I know of is actually dates, that is 3%, you know, but almost all fruits are from 4 to 8% protein or amino acids per calorie, and vegetables range from 15 to 25+%. You know what I mean? The other aspect of it too is, like, you know, raw vital foods, they're very, very bioavailable. The amino acids are really easily absorbed and digested. Whereas, you know, someone might be eating a steak and thinking, oh, I'm getting all this protein, but they're cooking and charring the meat and causing carcinogens and, you know, destroying the protein, denaturing the protein in such a way where you might be getting 40 to 60 to 80% of the protein. Who knows? But it's in a form that is all connected with the covalent bonds. It needs to be broken down into this essential amino acids before it's even being utilized. And even then, some of those bonds may not break down. Some of them are damaged. And, you know, there's the uric acid buildup from digesting all that stuff and all the other kind of ramifications of it. So it's like, sometimes people think they're eating high protein foods when really they're getting a small percentage of what would be intrinsic in that food. Whereas instead, when you're eating fresh, vital fruits and vegetables, you're eating the original, you're getting the Legos all apart instead of getting like a Lego car and needing to break it apart inside your system. It's like, no, here's all the pieces. There you go. Easily absorbed, easily digest, bioavailable, super high. So you can get, you know, more out of the plant foods in an easier absorbable form more often too. So, you know, if you eat a random mix of fruits and vegetables, you're usually going to get between like 5 and 8 to 10% protein per your total caloric needs, right? So it's really easy. It's funny. It's really easy to get enough protein. All it takes is eating some variety and eating enough calories from fruits and vegetables. And I encourage people to, you know, eat a lot of vegetables. You know, I typically actually say I'm a frugivore rather than fruitarian, just because I think that the vegetables are very important. And I like to really generally have almost the same amount of volume as vegetables as fruit, but fruits predominate in terms of calories in my diet, right? So, you know, eating a lot of vegetables and eating some hemp seeds or some other nuts and seeds can also boost your protein intake and the variety of amino acids. But again, the reality is, like, you know, if you're eating enough to sustain yourself, you're eating a bit of a variety of even just fruits, you can get more than enough protein to foster like major growth. You know, you look at little teeny babies and they're just roughly getting around 5 to 7% protein themselves, and they're growing at the fastest rate we'll ever grow in our lifespan. And, you know, we can get that amount easily from fruits and veggies, and or if we want, right? So yeah, my experience is if you do the work, you eat enough calories, you grow muscle, and it's quality muscle. It works really well, you know. So any guy who's out there, just, you know, realize that the biggest things are to make sure you're getting enough calories, and otherwise include a variety of fruits and some vegetables and do the work. You know, the muscle is built in the gym or doing intense activities, especially if you're looking for mass. It's the activities that you can only do, you know, once in a certain amount. You can't just, like, if you want to build muscle and you're a runner, well, I'm sorry, you're going to be building lean muscle tissue. If you want to put on strength and mass, then you got to do things that are very strenuous and hard, and you can only do like 8 to 12 to 15 of those as a set, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's probably one of the best answers I've ever heard. The protein question, because usually when people ask me about protein, I'm like, do I look protein deficient to you? Like,
Yeah,
just,
no.
just, because it's like you just live that example. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you can ask me from your mind, what about protein? But it's like, okay, look at somebody that has been living this way. It's the same thing for you. Does this person look like they're protein deficient?
Yeah. I mean, there's no, that's the thing too, is like, there's no medical term for protein deficiency that isn't also connected to either starvation or like inhumane conditions where you're just fed one thing, like in a care home. You don't see it. Like you don't see protein deficiency happen in third world where people are starving. Yes. But in a place where people can eat enough food, it just doesn't happen because all whole foods are built up with amino acids. So, I mean, unless someone makes their diet out of sugar, like oil and like sugar, oil, and what would be the other one then? And protein powder, just like the macronutrients, but without any connected vitamins and stuff. Well, then you could be, I guess you wouldn't want the protein powder because that might actually have the protein. But what I'm trying to say is, like, unless you're eating heavily processed foods as the bulk of your diet, it's almost impossible to not get enough protein if you're eating enough calories. So
yeah, absolutely.
Something else that's really interesting, and not a lot of people know, but our body is a master recycler. Like, it's a master recycler. So we're always catabolizing tissues in our system, and the fastest growing cells in our body are in our digestive tract. So we're always shedding off layers of our digestive tract back into our stomach and through our digestive tract to be excreted. But any amino acids, any minerals that can be reused are reused. And what they found in studies of looking at people's digestive tracts is that irregardless of what they eat, they always have a pretty standard mix of amino acids in the digestive tract, because some of that is coming from things going back into the system to be recycled, right? So even if you eat a meal that doesn't have lysine in it, you're still going to have lysine circulating in your system because it's breaking down tissues that contain that amino acid and get recirculated back into the body. So that's why, the old kind of concept, when I first got into vegetarianism, they're like, you got to eat rice and beans at every meal to make sure you get every amino acid in every meal. Otherwise, your body's going to fall apart. It's like, no, that's just an oversimplification. And we're thinking that we're smarter than nature. Nature's way smarter than us, and it already figured that out since the dawn of time, right? So it's a little more trust and understanding that our body has it. It's just fuel ourselves with a wide variety of foods, and the seasons give us those wide varieties of foods, and our tastes lead us to different foods, and it leads us to getting the best mix of nutrients when we start to include more and more over the week, month, years, so that our body can identify with those beautiful plants that just nourish us.
Oh my God. I love how connected we all are, because I literally just a couple hours ago, I was on the phone with a friend, and I was saying the exact same thing that you just said. Like, nature is so intelligent. Like, do you really think nature is kind of like, oops, I forgot something? Like, no, it's all in there, in the fruits, in the food that grows on trees, and in the dirt, in the earth, on the bush, or it's
everything has its purpose, right? Like, oh, we don't, that organ, it's not important. Don't need that. Don't worry about that. The tonsils, no, we just haven't figured out. Like, well, we now know, but it's like nature hasn't figured out.
We can really go deep into that rabbit hole. Chris, definitely, I would love to have you again in a live video in the group. Like, you just a well of knowledge with all of your experience and the amount of years that you've been experimenting, and there's just so much to share. So I would love to invite you again, and this time technology is going to work with us.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be great. We could do a little tester, and it'll be great to connect with everyone in the group, and I'd be really excited to do that as well.
Yeah, but I do want to share. So you offering the desserts, right? That you have as a ebook.
Yeah, download? I have a free download. You sign up to my mailing list on my website, and you can get super sweet treats, which are desserts that you can make as the entire meal. There's like crepes and ice creams and pancakes and ice cream cones and so many different delicious things, puddings, all that fun stuff. And they're very healthful. You could eat them as any meal. So there's that. Excuse me, a little hiccup. And then there's 10 sure shot ways to drastically improve your health, which are kind of more a holistic roadmap that you can apply point by point to just really improve your overall well-being and connection. And the last one is an excerpt from one of my other books called Tea Area Retreat Treats, and it's Mediterranean night, so it's raw vegan falafels, kind of talking about the range from super, super simple hygienic all the way up to low-fat raw gourmet is kind of the bridge I like to gap. And it, raw falafels that literally taste like cooked falafels, but they're pretty fun. So it has falafels and tzatziki and tabbouleh, so some fun Mediterranean recipes.
Yeah, I gotta say that Chris does have incredible recipes. So
thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely
Got a free app.
Yeah. Well, I'll share. I don't know. I think I have that information from you. Yeah. So I'm going to post that in the group of this video. And also this is going to go on YouTube as well. And I'll post
Super
the
fun.
links. Check out Chris's recipes, especially for those of you that are looking to transition. Chris offers incredible recipes for sure, where, maybe you're not that ready to just eat mangoes and bananas all day long. That's fine. Then there's the middle path and a bridge.
Yeah.
So I'll post all the links. And Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And I do look forward to having another conversation with you soon.
Awesome. Honor and pleasure. Absolutely. Definitely blessed to be here to connect with everyone. I'm excited for the next time. I'm ready anytime.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. And I see all of you next time.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
True Health with Noah on Facebook. Rise up to your potential.
Ooh, don't forget to check out my raw recipes playlist in the top left, the video just for you in the top right, subscribe for more videos in the bottom right, and get your 3 free ebooks in the bottom left. Grab your free raw recipe app, available on iPhone and Android, with over 100 free raw recipes, common fruit and vegetable calorie breakdown, frickin' raw food combining chart, shopping cart function, and so much more.